Hey folks, welcome back. In this video, I'll talk about some of Photoshop's built-in lighting tools and give you some options on top of that for you to experiment and play with. So I've got this piece here that I've worked on, and in order for me to show you the first set of lighting effects, what we're going to do is we're going to merge all of our existing visible layers into one. We can do that by holding down Shift, Option, Command E, or Shift, Alt, Control E on a PC. And you get your layers flattened into one. That's the first important step. The next step is we're going to go to Filter. We're going to go down to Render. We're going to choose Lighting Effects. And when we do that, we can see that there's already a lighting effect that's already added in here. You can see that there are many that you can choose from. I'll just go ahead and show you a few here. There's crossing, and you have the ability of controlling the intensity. There's parallel directional, which kind of gives it a bluish tint based upon this color. You can always change the color temperature of the overall piece very quickly. And you can click OK. So you can play around with these different lighting presets. The only disadvantage here is that you can't really move the lights. That's the problem. But you can affect, a very, very simplistic way of looking at your lights. Something else that's also neat that I discovered here is texture. Just look carefully here and I'll do a zoom in. If I just choose texture and I choose, say, red, this kind of gives it a little bit of an embossed type of feel. I'm going to toggle this to none so you can see it a little bit better. And I'll just choose something like green or blue. In any event, what it's doing is it's adding a little bit of a relief to each of the lines, which may be an effect that you desire. It kind of makes it pop out a little bit more, so that might be something worth considering. You can also change the overall height. If I just crank this all the way down, it looks hideous. If I crank it all the way up, it looks hideous. So you can kind of adjust that. If you want to include a little bit more of a relief or a stone texture or something like that, you can set that to 1. You can add multiple lights. You can remove existing lights. For example, there's an extra light here. I can delete that. I'll just put a soft omni, and I can crank up that intensity. And once I'm ready to go ahead and commit, I can just click OK, and it bakes that in for me. Now, that might be useful if you're already at the finishing stages here, but what if you just want to play around with color temperature and you also want to play around with these effects but still preserve your layer stack? Well, that's what I'm going to show you next. So what we're going to do first is we're going to influence the color temperature of this piece. And we can just start off by making a brand new layer above all of our existing layers. And let's say that we want to have something that's going to have a warmer color temperature. So I'll pick something like orange. And I'll just flood that in by hitting Option Delete or Alt Backspace. And I'll choose Soft Light. This automatically unifies all the colors and makes them more warm. If that's too intense, you can always drop the opacity down to something that's more manageable. I don't want it to be too orangey. I want it to have a little bit of an orange tint across the entire piece. And then while you're here, if you want to just simply see what your options are, you can hit Command U, and then you can always, give it a cooler cast, for example, to see what that looks like. I think the cooler cast looks a little bit better. So I'll click OK. And that preserves your layer stack underneath as well. What about if you wanted to add a little bit of a blur, kind of like to make it more like a soft penumbra, like a spotlight? How do we simulate that? Well, we'll make a brand new layer. We'll use our elliptical selection tool. We'll just make this as big as possible. This is going to be the visible area. Anything outside of that circle will be blurred or darkened. So what we'll do is we'll just inverse the selection, Shift Command I. We'll choose black, we'll fill it in, and then we'll hit Command D to deselect. And then we can go up to our filter menu, we can choose blur, we can choose Gaussian blur, and we can crank that up and we have something similar. So the advantage of the last two techniques that I've just shown you here is that you don't have to flatten all of your layers. It gives you a little bit more control, I think, but you know, like with anything in Photoshop, there's multiple ways of doing any given task. So you have to see what's right for you. Generally speaking, I prefer the latter method because it gives me much more flexibility and control. But if you're at the finishing stage and you just want to go ahead and show your client, or you want to show alternatives to your work to somebody else for feedback, then that might, you know, the initial set of techniques that I've shown you might be a better option. So I hope you found value in this video. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for engaging with me. Let me know what you'd like to see in the comments below. What are some of the topics that are of interest to you? And I'm always looking for new ideas. And really, this channel is something that happens as a result of the feedback that I get from people that are watching this. So tell me what you want to see me talk about next, and I'll put that in the list of topics and we'll go from there. As always, thank you for watching the videos, and I'll see you in the next one.